Nicole Stevens and Ethan Swenson, and they are here to talk access equity. So they're going to share with us a project that they're currently working on that has to do with your business diversity management system. Take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Talia. Good morning. Thank you all so much for spending some time today to talk through our Access Equity project. This project is not complete, so we're doing something a little different today. We're in the middle of this project, but we have plenty of good information. And this project will impact all of your agencies. Perk up and this project does center around providing the necessary data to help our state achieve equity in public spending. Over the last several years, our governor has directed us to center our budgetary packages and our legislations around equity. Through this direction, our governor has put us on a path to dismantle inequities in our institutions, all Washingtonians. This project is designed to be a foundational component to build our business diversity and inclusion program. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Next slide, please. I want to first introduce our team. So I'm joined today by Ethan Swenson. He is our project manager. Doug Mora, he is the Tools for Equity and Public Spending Manager. And Nicole Stevens, our Organizational Change Manager and Contract Compliance. And my name is Sarah Erdman, and I serve as the Deputy Director at OMWBE and the co-executive sponsor of the project. Please. So on the agenda for our presentation, we're first going to talk about the compelling need for change. We'll go into the history of the project. We'll talk about an overview of what the project is about, challenges that we faced along the way, successes that we were able to celebrate, how we measure success on this project, what we've learned, how you all can actively engage, and then we've got plenty of time for Q&A. So let's first hear from Doug Mora.
All right, thank you. As Sarah mentioned, straight up, we are not using our minority and women-owned veteran businesses proportionate to their availability in the state. And one thing, we're a very data-focused group here, being continuous improvement practitioners. We don't have a lot of insight into how primary contractors are spending with subcontractors. And prime contractors may need some guidance on, are they paying their subcontractors in a timely manner and accurately? We don't have a whole lot of insight into that. And our current state mostly is collecting this data using spreadsheets from agencies by email. And as continuous improvement practitioners, you probably right away think, we could do better. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how much better we can do and how much better this system is going to be. And this is going to help us in many ways. First of all, getting that deeper insight into the spending, the accuracy, the timeliness, where the dollars are going. Are primary contractors using minority women businesses a proportion to their availability? We're asking these questions. We're going to get that insight. And additionally, as we increase the use of these businesses, that's better for the communities that we serve. And these smaller businesses can pivot faster and serve our state's needs more effectively. So the background, the Governor's Subcabinet on Business Diversity commissioned a study to really look into, you can ask that question, are we using businesses appropriately in our state? And as you can imagine, the results were, no, there is a disparity between availability of businesses and their actual use in our state. And the consultant who did this study did a very rigorous analysis using objective and subjective data. The dollar spent by industry code, and anecdotes from business owners. How is it to work with the state? Is it onerous? Are we getting the information we need in order to bid appropriately? Are we even hearing about the bids? So the study showed, as you can imagine, as you would suspect, we can do better. And part of the results of the study were 14 recommendations, race and gender neutral measures that we can take to address that disparity. One of them, though, one of the biggest ones was electronic data collection and monitoring. So we need to do that, and the Executive Order 2201 that came out last year also required multiple things that the agencies use tools for equity and public spending, hence my job, using the toolkit. But very important, track the money, track where the spending is going. And so Ethan's going to tell you about the application that we're going to use for that.
Thanks, Doug. So the primary goal of Access Equity in its creation was to create an online portal where Washington state agencies and colleges could electronically submit their spend data on contracts, which include subcontractors. To date, there has been a lack of visibility regarding the state's utilization and contract data regarding subcontractor spend on state-issued contracts. So by providing an online portal, Access Equity will cause a shift in the way agencies have been collecting and reporting on their spend from a manual process involving each agency reporting graded Excel spreadsheets, which are sent to home WBE email once a year, which is a resource that Access Equity can now provide access real-time to the spend data. Access Equity will also standardize the process of data reporting throughout the state, which will eliminate errors found in the manual reporting processes, cut down on the amount of time and the amount of agency spent on the data cleaning efforts overall. And instead of relying on individual spending collating the data from all across the state, reports that capture spend data can be run at any time instead of the once-a-year report generated once all agencies have emailed in their Excel spreadsheet. And these new reports from Access Equity will enable accurate, customizable reporting for increased impact on equity and public and contracting procurement, which will give Washington an opportunity to close its equity gap faster and permit prompt responses to data requests by agencies and the public. One of the ancillary benefits of Access Equity is agencies and higher education institutions direct outreach to certified business opportunities through like that. As mentioned, a byproduct of Access Equity implementation is the modernization and standardization of enterprise data collection and reporting. Every agency has their own processes, many of which are manual, cumbersome, and antiquated. There are also gaps in the current ways we track state spending that does not accurately count spending we spend with diverse businesses. And Access Equity looks to bridge these gaps. This change from manual collection to an automated web-based tool will reduce the reliance on manually batching, both from the agencies collecting their own spend data and then OMWBE collating that spend data throughout the state. Now, within Access Equity, reports can be generated, run real time to reflect current spending. It also adds accountability to the prime contractors looking to work with the state, who now must make a conscious effort to spend equitably within their subcontractors, not just the agencies, the universities, colleges who are responsible for equitable spending, but also those businesses who receive state funds. In order to enhance the state's ability to identify certified and qualified diverse businesses, the outreach module provides powerful search functions to help match bidding opportunities with qualified bidders. And OMWBE is working with DES to align statewide outreach policies and procedures to include the Access Equity outreach modules and its tools.
Thanks, Ethan. So we have some challenges that we discovered, and the biggest one to start with is that we did ask for money after the disparity study for some new staff, but we didn't have an IT team. So we're doing a statewide implementation of software that we don't have an IT staff to manage. So we did get a few roles, but we found that we probably should have gotten some more resources earlier on. So we are the experts in reaching out through the state to collect this data, but again, we've been doing it manually, and so now we're asking everybody to change their processes, which is a big challenge, because each agency does things their own way. Some of them aren't even tracking subcontractors at all. We found that vendor management is kind of a minimal concern for them. And then as far as what the primes have been, how they've been treating and how they contract with their subcontractors, it's been no visibility at all. So we are asking agencies to now start thinking about that, making sure that the subcontractors are being treated equitably, they're getting paid on time, they're getting paid accurately, and so this system is going to help us track all of that stuff for them. Yeah, there we go. So knowing that we know now, our feasibility study didn't address the magnitude of the project and its impacts on having more money, more time, and more experience for a statewide IT project. Implementing process changes and not understanding the complexity of how projects impact others without consideration. And then, of course, like I said, vendor management, goal tracking, and asking the agencies to even track their subcontractor spend at all is all new. And we just historically have not been able to get that information out of them. So some people do turn in the reporting, and then others say that they don't even know if they have subcontractors on contract. They think that they don't. So we're finding that we're having to ask people to even just go in and talk to all the project or all of the contract managers, send their agency, just to find out if they even have subcontractors. So next slide. So we did have some things that we implemented either in flight or ahead of time. We already had our tools for equity and public spending manager, and those tools were already created by the subcabinet. We brought in OCM help, which created a change network, and so for each phase that we're doing, we've got a group of people who are going to be change champions in every single agency. It's one or two people. Some couple of people have added a few more, which more the merrier, in my opinion, to start spreading the word and getting the awareness out to everybody and making sure that all the users are going to be ready by the time we actually get them in the system. So that worked pretty well for phase one. And so we did do a lengthy phase one with just 7 agencies, or 3 universities and 4 agencies. And it went pretty well. We learned a lot from that. There was a lot of bumps, but we had so many great questions, things that we hadn't been able to think about before. We created contract language with our AAG so that they can start putting that into their current contracts if possible. Definitely any RFPs that they send out, specifically telling them that they're going to be the primes are going to be using the system and that they need to make sure that their subs are also going to use it. We gave a lot of time, actually. We've got about 4 or 5 months for each phase to get ready, and that's going to include the monthly change network meetings. We've got subcontractor inclusion plan templates that's part of the equity, or part of the toolkit. And we're telling everybody that they need to start using those, which that's also in the DES supplier diversity policy. We've been working one-on-one with people whenever they need. Doug and I specifically have done a lot of work with that. Ethan has too, where anybody needs a little bit more hand-holding, we're happy to do that for them. And then we are offering interfaces. So again, we don't really have an IT staff, but we are working with BTG now to get anybody who does have a CMS that they want to integrate with Access Equity. We're working that out. We're figuring out how to get those for them. Slide. All right, so previously, as Ethan mentioned, we're going to have real-time reporting. That's a huge benefit. We're not going to just have this once-a-year visibility into what everybody's working on, because by then, again, it's usually too late. You know, they've probably missed with some subcontractors that they didn't realize that they had, but we're going to be able to see this right anytime we need to look at it, and so can they. Previously, we had one full-time FTE that collected all of the annual reporting from all of these various data sources, including Excel spreadsheets. They had to spend a lot of time scrubbing those because the object codes and even just the way that they entered it into the spreadsheet was different. So the person had to kind of match it all up and then get it published. And that was about a 6 to 8 month process for one person to work on. So now we're going to be able to just pull this down from one place. We're still going to have AFRs and WATEC reporting that we need to gather still, but we won't have all these different spreadsheets, at least, because we'll have those subcontractors in our system. And then, of course, we're hoping to see, the goal is to see increased spending with our certified businesses, which we do our certification through the same system, the same BTG Now system in a different module, and it's all tied together. And so we'll be able to see right then who's certified, who's not, and where our goals are for each contract. And then we've got an outreach module, and while it is optional, people don't have to use it. It is a really robust tool for people to be able to send out event invites and create those outreach events. And we'll be able to actually, again, pull reporting and see what's the engagement been like, how many events are they actually managing, and I think that was it. Sorry, that was the end of my list. Back to Doug.
Great, all right, so lessons learned. And this is one of those situations where your internal dialogue is probably harsher than you would ever speak to anyone else. So we did some deep introspection in our agency on this project, and want to share some of those lessons learned. The first one is implementing change management experts. We were working with a project management consultant and not using them effectively. So trust your consultants. You're paying them. Use them to do that change management if you've hired them to do that, and take the time to do that. I know this is a continuous improvement group here, but use those change management skills. And speaking near and dear to my heart, have your processes fully baked before you try to implement software to supplement them. And as previously mentioned, we had agencies doing a whole bunch of different stuff and not getting a whole lot of insight before recognizing that, we're going to use the software. So now we have to learn what all the agencies are doing and how is the software going to work with it. So probably resonating with a lot of continuous improvement practitioners. Better understanding of your pitfalls, just do your risk assessment up front and maintain your risk register and be prepared for mitigating those risks as they show up. And the complete skill set in a successful project requires project management, change management, and continuous improvement. So this is one of those situations where we all knew we needed this. The executive order required it. The disparity study recommended it as its recommendation. We all knew we needed it. The nice thing, one of the many nice things about using the DMAIC framework is that you've done all that groundwork before you get into your process improvement. And so we had to do a little bit of catch up on that. So, and I think we did well. Ultimately, we got there. We knew we needed this electronic data collection and monitoring. Just connecting it to that process is where one of the main strengths of DMAIC. So, anybody else want to chime in on that? Okay. So, what can you do as continuous improvement practitioners? Now that you're aware of this project, if you are interested and maybe you are a white belt, yellow belt, or green belt and want some project experience, maybe you can connect with the change champion in your agency to get involved in this project. And this would be a great time to do it because you're going to have this opportunity to document existing processes and do those Gemba walks that could have been done earlier in the project. Hard to do it on 100 agencies and higher ed institutions, but that's why we've got a community of practitioners here to maybe help us out. So, and you can also learn more about the application on the user guide that we have posted on the public website. This was also a product of working with our consultants, our project management and change management consultants, developing this really tailored user guide for our instance. Any other calls to action or lessons learned? Nicole put the. Oh.
I was just going to say that there's only been one Change Network meeting so far for phase 2, and I'm guessing probably most of you are in phase 2. So if you want to connect with them now, that'd be really great. They probably could use your help making sure that that the contracting and procurement teams are going to be ready. I haven't yet asked anybody to identify who those people are going to be yet, but that could possibly be something you could help with as well.
Yes, and now we're off to questions.
Anyone in the room have any questions? That was an awesome presentation. Thank you. I kind of felt like I was sitting at a PPR for a minute. Such a good project underway, and we actually have the ability to ask some questions on this one. So, anyone out there have any burning questions? Hey, I'm not seeing any. Let's see. Let me go back to this.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yes.
Is there a list maintained by the agency for Change Champions that is available? Awesome.
Yeah, you can just email me.
Oh, I was just suggesting maybe we should publish it on our Access. All right, okay, if we can't.
Yeah, I'd want to get permission from everybody before doing that, but.
You have one here, this is recommendations, do you have any feedback for statewide adoption? I think what I would give you, and I don't know if you have or haven't done this yet, so I know little, is really selling what's in it for the agencies to do this new reporting thing, right? Because there's got to be some benefits in there. I'm really pushing that out to them so they want to engage in that change.
It's something we're pretty cognizant of is, like, the product is ready, but we still have 104 agencies to onboard. And we could, if need be, onboard them today. But we really want to be thorough, and we really want to explain the value that is going to be inherent in adopting this product for each agency. And a lot of it is the modernization and just the standardization throughout the state. But each agency has a goal internally that they're supposed to hit. And without visibility on where their money is going, they have no idea how truly reflective their spend is with regards to their goals until we tell them 6 months after the fiscal year has ended. And so this allows us, there is this ancillary benefit that every agency is getting, and this tool allows us to be better communicative and do our jobs in facilitating this spending for the state of Washington. So a lot of it is we're just being very thorough in our presentation of this and providing the insight to the value that this product has for each one of these agencies, and then mitigating the risks that they have with, change process. So like I said, we could onboard everyone today if we absolutely needed to, but we're not going to, because we want everyone to, by the time they have the keys to this product, understand the why, the how, and the benefits that will be for their agency themselves.
Yeah, the benefits for the agency to include like the benefits of having diverse, Office of Minority Women businesses actually doing work, right? So kind of pulling those together. So awesome, good stuff.
There's a question in the chat from Nikolai at the SHS. What recommendations do you have for engaging IT at the start of a project/process improvement endeavor if you don't have a formal work group or project for your charter?
I mean, honestly, it would be to get a formal work group or a project charter. That's probably the biggest recommendation. I mean, there are tools and there are rules within the state of Washington about how to implement projects like this. And the best recommendation is if you don't know, ask OCIO. And they will guide you through the process of what you should be doing. But I mean, realistically, do consult your IT before you're considering any sort of project like this. What are the impacts on the current infrastructure that you already have in your ecosystem? What are the impacts on, and then, like Doug mentioned, talk to the people in who utilize the processes. What are the impacts on the processes if you start changing things around? What are they already using that you're replacing or you're sunsetting? And so the recommendations are talk to your team, who's going to be impacted across the agency, but also talk to the resources that the state has already identified for you guys to use your project, and they'll guide you. That's their jobs.
Yeah, and one of the challenges we faced with this too is we know that it's possible to have some interfaces that draw from existing data sources if the agency is already collecting this. But I think one of the challenges we had was actually communicating what exactly a subcontractor spend is. And while some folks in the procurement team knew that, the IT folks weren't quite maybe understanding, oh, well, we're collecting that in, you know, whatever internal system. Yeah, the reality of it is, I mean, one of the reasons why we needed access equity was there isn't a statewide system collecting this data. So yeah, that was a little bit of a challenge. So yeah, bringing in the IT team and being able to communicate to them, being able to speak in IT and being able to speak in database as languages.
I have a couple other good questions in chat. And of course, my window just left me. They asked 2 in 1. Teresa, can you see those?
And Gwendolyn at the Department of Fish and Wildlife says, thank you for this presentation. And she wanted to ask 2 things. How to include criteria for women-owned businesses or Washington-owned businesses in a request for proposal and have it stand without contesting or any issues? And how do you clarify a Washington-owned business, since all businesses have to be a Washington-registered vendor to receive payment from the state? And can be argued that it is therefore a Washington business?
Doug and I'll tag team this one. So we are in a race and gender neutral state in Washington right now. So all of the tools that we're putting out are specific to small businesses, and all of OMWBE businesses are small, but they're also owned by minority and women. There are no points or extra considerations that you can currently give to OMWBE certified businesses, but there's a lot of tools that you can still use to encourage participation. And Doug can talk a little bit about the tools for equity. There is specific language that you can use in your RFPs to encourage participation. You can look at the use of inclusion plans. So, you know, prime contractor, you tell me how you're going to work towards inclusion on your project for the areas that you're going to be subbing out. But there are no penalties or mandatory requirements right now that you can put in your RFPs. But like I said, there's a lot of things that you can do. So Doug, you want to share a little bit more?
Sure, and also get in a pitch for the toolkit workshop. So I'll drop a link later into the chat. So I provide toolkit workshops on how to actually do these race and gender neutral, for example, outreach. You can push out information about a procurement effort to specific groups, but you can't, for example, award extra points in your competitive procurement process to a minority or woman-owned business. So there are ways that we're doing the race and gender neutral measures developed from the disparity study. So yeah, join us for toolkits. And also, for example, Department of Enterprise Services does lunch and learns. They have a series running through June, starting right at noon today. So yeah, so I encourage you to join those and subscribe to our newsletter, our supplier diversity newsletter, to get updates on toolkit workshops, new tactics, new tools you can use, and newly certified businesses, for example. And then to answer your second question, Washington-owned businesses, this we could do a whole hour session on that, but they don't necessarily need to be a Washington business to be certified by OMWBE, but it's a long story that I don't want to take.
So to be certified by OMWBE, we look at ownership. So what did you initially invest in the business? Can you control the business, like day-to-day operations? Do you have the expertise? We're looking at, are you small? And then are you economically disadvantaged? So just high level of what the criteria is to be certified. And then just going back to that first question, I wanted to mention really looking at when you're putting out an RFP, are you small business friendly? So what kind of requirements are you putting on that RFP? Are you saying you must have done business with the state of Washington before? If you're looking at that, is that something you must require? Because really thinking about how is anyone going to get their foot in the door if that is a requirement on all of your RFPs? Think about it when you all were starting out, you needed an opportunity. You just needed somebody to give you an opportunity to give you a job so you could get some experience. So think about that when you're trying to include small businesses into your RFPs. Are you small business friendly? Looking at those insurance requirements, bonding requirements. We must protect the state. We're not saying don't protect the state, but we're saying find that sweet spot where you're protecting the state and you're not going over and above that would knock a small business out from being able to participate. So there are barriers that we put up ourselves, not intentionally, but really look at what your language says in your RFPs. Look at how long you're putting your RFP out on the street. Are you putting it out for 14 days, the bare minimum, or are you putting it out for more like 45 days, 60 days? That's kind of the standard to allow businesses to have time to adequately respond to those RFPs. So just a few other things, really looking at your own internal processes and how is the environment that you're putting out small business friendly. Think about giving feedback when maybe someone does not meet the qualifications, or maybe they don't get the job after the interview. Be honest, be open, give genuine feedback, meet with those small businesses so that they can improve. So just a couple of things that I wanted to share with y'all.
Yeah, on that subject too, as continuous improvement practitioners, one thing you could do is engage with your, if possible, and check with your manager, et cetera, engage with your procurement team, analyze that process, and find touch points for the tools for equity in public spending. And if you have questions about that, we'll provide my email, but I'd be happy to consult with you on analyzing your process and finding those touch points, because that's the backbone of the outcomes, right? If your process is producing disparities, then it's designed to do that. So re-engineer your processes to produce equity. And that's a whole nother talk I gave at the Equity Summit last year. But yeah, so another argument for having documented, clearly defined processes, especially if you have an illustration, it makes it so much easier to just find those touch points for the tools.
Really quickly, if that's okay. Another way is outreach, which is a component of this project. So thinking about, I know that we all publish our RFPs and webs, it's a requirement, but not everyone is registered in webs. And if you're not, how do you hear about those opportunities? So you need to push out your opportunities to the commissions, to OMWBE. We publish those opportunities on our website. And then part of this project has an outreach module, which allows you to connect with the directory of certified businesses. It's not to compete with webs, it's that additional touch. Just like when we post jobs on careers.wa.gov, we still send it out to our contacts. Do the same thing with your RFPs to really make sure that those businesses have access to the information that you're sharing. They have access to know that you have a solicitation. Do you post them on your website? So again, really think about what your outreach efforts are. Have a plan, a communications plan and an outreach plan on every single RFP. Again, just to make sure that you're casting as wide of a net as you possibly can, which increases access to information, but it increases competition, right? We want more businesses to bid on these RFPs. So we should ensure that we're getting the word out by more than just webs. Use all kinds of avenues to get the word out.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, another question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is there a way that you can encourage the prime contractors to, allocate some of their contracts to the small businesses? That's one way to help them through the certification. And then secondly, is there in the plan to have maybe a list of the prime contractors or match make the prime contractors with the small business owners? Or you can have like, a conference or a session where a matchmaking activity actually where both can meet so that they get, to know one another and increase businesses for the small business owners.
Such great points that you brought up, because we are the state, we're contracting with these prime contractors. We need to make sure that they understand what our values are, and our values are inclusion. And so communicating, hey, we expect you to do your robust outreach, to think about where there are subcontracting opportunities on this contract, and ensure that you are subbing to minority and women-owned certified businesses. It can be done through the use of an inclusion plan right at bid time. So we're not necessarily saying you must meet this 5 or 10% goal, but we're saying it's part of your responsive
response to this RFP is to include an inclusion plan of what you're going to do for inclusion. So I think that's exactly what you were kind of hitting on, is ensuring that primes know what we expect of them too. And we should be communicating our values as a state. Really great points. Thanks for sharing.
All right, thank you. So I apologize. This is Talia. My computer just died on me, so you're just going to hear my voice right now. Thank you so much. I'm just so happy for the panel that we have today. Such great engagement. I love how DOR has extended themselves for assistance if y'all need to reach out to them. Same thing with OMWB. I think I heard earlier, like a call to action for folks who want to participate and help, and I just love that. That is the epitome of why we're doing this enterprise-wide COP, because we have so many people out there that are practitioners that can help with projects outside of their own division and agency, so I love that you did that. And just to clarify, did you enter your email for them to contact you? Perfect. So please do that if this is something you're interested in, passionate about, or you have some skill set you want to help contribute, reach out to Nicole. All right, so moving on, I've just got a few announcements. Please remember to take this survey. This is our first hybrid, so I'm so thankful you